Okay, so what happens when a whole culture basically rediscovers its own past? It's not just about getting nostalgic, it's about lighting a fire, sparking a revolution. And that, right there, is the story of the Renaissance. We're talking about a time that didn't just tweak art or science a little bit, it completely redefined what it even means to be human.
So that's the big question, right? How does a forgotten past ignite a brand new future? We're going to dig into how dusting off these super old ideas from ancient Greece and Rome somehow managed to kick off one of the most creative explosions in all of human history. And to really wrap your head around this, you've got to see the difference side by side. On the left, that's art from the Middle Ages. See how the figures are kind of flat, symbolic. They're there to tell a religious story. But then, look to the right. That's the Renaissance. All of a sudden, you've got artists like Raphael painting people who look like they could just walk right out of the frame. They feel real, solid, human. You can literally see the focus shifting from way up in the heavens right back down to us here on Earth.
This incredible change, of course, has a name, the Renaissance, and it literally just means rebirth. What was being reborn? Well, thinkers and artists started looking past the Middle Ages, like they were skipping a chapter, going all the way back to the classics, to ancient Greece and Rome. And what they found there was like this buried treasure chest of art and philosophy and science just sitting there, waiting for someone to open it.
All right, so you've got this amazing rebirth happening, but what was the actual spark? What was the intellectual fuel for this massive fire? Well, it really all comes down to one single, powerful, world-changing idea.
And that big idea was humanism. Now, it's really important to get this right. This was not about rejecting religion. Not at all. It was about, well, expanding the picture. Humanists were digging into all those classic texts to celebrate what people, what individuals could achieve. They were fascinated by human potential. For the first time in like 1,000 years, humanity itself was put center stage.
I mean, you can't overstate how profound this shift was. The thinking went from the group, the collective you saw in the Middle Ages, to focusing on what one single, brilliant person could do. It all came down to this: a respect for the power and unique talents of the individual. But, an idea is just an idea if it doesn't have any support, right? So how did this concept of humanism jump from some dusty old book onto, say, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel? Well, the answer is a very powerful partnership between money and art.
It all happened through a system we call patronage. And honestly, it was a simple but absolutely brilliant cycle. Here's the deal. You had wealthy patrons, we're talking powerful families in the church, who would basically bankroll the artists. They'd provide the money, the food, a place to live, and because the artists didn't have to worry about where their next meal was coming from, they were totally free to just create. And the result? It was a win-win. The patron gets a masterpiece and a huge status boost, and the artist gets to make history.
And if you're looking for the poster family for patronage, look no further than the Medici family in Florence. These guys weren't just writing checks, they were true believers in this new movement. You had Cosimo de' Medici, who built libraries and hoarded rare books. Then you have his grandson, Lorenzo, known as the Magnificent, who was the patron for absolute titans like Michelangelo. Their home basically became the unofficial headquarters of the entire Renaissance.
Okay, so this new passion for making things look super realistic meant artists needed some new tricks up their sleeve. Just take a look at this image here. See how that road looks like it just goes on forever, stretching into the distance? Being able to create that illusion of depth on a totally flat surface, that was an absolutely revolutionary breakthrough.
And that trick is called perspective. Artists started using math, to figure out how to make a 2D painting look 3D. They cracked the code. They realized that parallel lines, like the edges of a road, look like they eventually meet at one single spot, way off on the horizon. They called that the vanishing point. And once they figured that out, man, art was changed forever. Suddenly, paintings looked so real you felt like you could just step right into them.
So, think about it. You've got this game-changing idea, humanism. You've got the money to fund it, thanks to patrons. And now you have the new techniques, like perspective, to make it all look real. This combination created the absolute perfect storm for an explosion of pure genius, and the epicenter was Italy.
And who was at the forefront of all this? Leonardo da Vinci, of course, the ultimate Renaissance man. This guy wasn't just the painter of the Mona Lisa, not even close. He was a brilliant scientist studying human anatomy, an inventor sketching out designs for flying machines. He was the living, breathing embodiment of that core belief that human potential had no limits. Then, of course, there's Michelangelo, and what's so fascinating about him is that he always thought of himself as a sculptor, a carver, first and foremost. He literally said, "I am a sculptor, not a painter." But his powerful patrons, like, the Pope, they had some other ideas. They pushed him, and so, pretty reluctantly, he ended up painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, which, oh yeah, just happens to be one of the greatest artistic achievements in all of human history. No big deal.
And to round out this trio of giants, we have Raphael. If Leonardo was the scientist-inventor and Michelangelo was the intense, tormented sculptor, Raphael was the master of pure harmony and grace. His paintings, like the incredible School of Athens, are just perfectly composed. Everything is in balance. His figures are so natural and lifelike, they honestly look like they're about to start breathing. He really captured that calm, idealized, perfect vision of the Renaissance.
But a fire this big doesn't just stay in one place, right? This explosion of creativity couldn't be contained in Italy. Pretty soon, the ideas of the Renaissance started to travel, and they began to transform the rest of Europe, but each place put its own unique spin on it. So you can see how it spread. It all kicks off in Italy in the 1400s. Then, around 1500, it really takes hold up north, in places like Germany and Flanders. And by the late 1500s, the focus shifts again, this time igniting a massive literary renaissance in Spain and England.
But it wasn't just a copy-paste job as it moved across Europe. The artists up north, they took the same core ideas and completely made them their own. So while Italian art was often about perfect, idealized beauty, classical myths, grand religious scenes, the northern artists got obsessed with this intense, gritty realism. They would paint every single tiny detail, like the light hitting a piece of fabric, and they were really interested in painting scenes of just normal, everyday peasant life.
And this rebirth wasn't just something you could see, it was something you could read and hear too. Over in Spain, you had Cervantes writing Don Quixote, which hilariously poked fun at all those old medieval stories of knights and chivalry. And of course, in England, you had William Shakespeare, who was just diving deep into the complexities of human emotions on the stage. That core focus on the human experience was transforming every single art form.
So when you step back, the Renaissance really shows us a formula, doesn't it? When you combine a powerful new way of thinking with new technology to express it and the money to make it all happen, you can literally change the world. It was this perfect fusion of art, science, and money. Which kind of leaves us with one last question to think about. What fusion of ideas and tools today might be sparking the next Renaissance?